tonight. Last night we had the St. Mary's council candidates that appeared. My name is Linda Williams, and I am your MC, and Dr. Janet Bradford will be our moderator who will ask the questions and keep these people moving and answering and letting you hear what they have to say on the issues. We've had the meet and greet time already this evening. Didn't have too many here, but glad to see more people have now shown up for the opportunity to hear what these candidates have to say. And all I can say is I'm very glad that despite my past experience in being in Camden County offices on St. Mary's City Council and on the County Commission, I'm happy that it's them tonight and not me. Here's how the sequence will work. We're going to start with the Camden County Commissioner candidates, and then the two council candidates for Kingsland, and they'll moderate and rotate who speaks first on each question. As a group, we'll get the commissioner candidates and then move on to the council candidates. I want to welcome everybody and thank you for coming. A few housekeeping issues. Please turn off your cell phones. If you do need to make a call, please go on out into the lobby and we won't be disturbed. The restrooms are out the door and to your right. The men's you come to first and then take another right and you'll get to the women's restroom. And during the forum, please maximize the time we have to hear from the candidates. Please refrain from applause and comment. We want to have them have as much time to address the issues as possible. If you want to applaud at the end, I'll ask for your opportunity to applaud everyone who has participated in this. First, let me identify the candidates. Mr. Ben Goff is the first gentleman here. Then we have Mr. Martin Turner, second gentleman. Alex Blunt for Kingsland City Council, and Ms. Angela Harris also for Kingsland City Council. There's a timer that I will be keeping out there, and when you reach 30 seconds of your left of your 3 minutes time, I will hold up a sign that says 30 seconds, and you're expected at pretty well to bring it to a close within that 30 seconds. If you go beyond that, we'll hear a little ding, and then we'll get into some more serious business to get you to stop if you somehow can't stop. I think that does it for the housekeeping issues, so I will turn this over to Dr. Bradford.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Good afternoon, everybody. And we are going to we'll rotate with the questions. We'll start with the county commissioner candidates, and then we will go with the city council candidates. But first, we're going to ask each person to take 3 minutes to tell you what they want you to know about themselves. That's their opening statement, and at the end we will also have a 3-minute closing statement. So I will start with Mr. Goff because he's on the end, and they've asked to stand. So if you don't object, just for the closing statement, we've got some folks that like to stand up. So I mean for the opening statement. So you can stand for the opening statement, and then we'll be seated during the questioning. Mr. Goff.
Thank you. And she was kind enough to leave it on. Don't start the time yet. Good evening. My birth certificate reads Clayton Benny Goff, as you pointed out there. I didn't know you knew that. Born in Sylvester, Worth County, Georgia in February of 1945. The abbreviation to CB Goff came in Uncle Sam's Navy boot camp, where we had to stencil every piece of clothing that we had. So that is how it got abbreviated, and it served me well for 60 years so far. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening and to answer any questions that may or may not be weighing heavily on your mind. Not on mine, yours. I chose to move to Harriet's Bluff in 2001 after finding it to be a location that satisfied most of my requirements for retirement. That was peace and quiet and the river nearby. The river is still nearby. The peace and quiet is gone. Harriet's Bluff Village is today eclectic, and I suspect it'll remain that way for a long time. It's ignored by most of the county, and that's one of the reasons why I'm up here tonight. I want to see that kind of change, not in a particular way, but one way. I grew up on a small 40-acre farm in Turner County near Ashburn, Georgia, and that rural upbringing has served me well throughout the rest of my life, up to this point anyway. I entered the Navy in 1963 as a kiddie cruiser. Some of you will know what that is. I was supposed to get out the day before my 21st birthday, and then Vietnam came along. Within a month of leaving active duty, I started a career with Southern Bell in Macon, Georgia. And during my corporate career, beginning in 1966, I served in Carrollton, Georgia, Augusta, Georgia, Macon, Georgia, and Atlanta, Georgia. In 1983, I was part of the transition to Southern Bell to AT&T. I managed operations in Macon, Georgia, parts of South Carolina, and ultimately Atlanta, Georgia as customer service manager. I served in Charleston right after Hurricane Hugo. I retired from AT&T in 1994 and started my own little communications business that's carried me for the rest of my working career. I conducted training for AT&T, United States Navy, and other branches. I am no stranger to managing processes or the people that perform those processes. I am successful in my work career because I believe in the power of accountability, communications, transparency. As District 2 Commissioner, I will use my experience and understanding to improve those areas of county administration. Thank you.
Okay. In 2002, I walked out of what they called back then Durango Paper Company. If you know anything about St. Mary's, it's right down the road, right on the river there. And I'd been working there for quite some time. I thought that would be my retirement. That's where I would end up, and then life would be great. However, that wasn't to be. It was going to change. So in 2002, with $30,000 and a brother that had an HVAC license, him and I started a business called Turner Brothers Heating and Air. Now, I'm going to back up, but before I do, I just want to let you know that's the hardest thing you could ever even think about doing. We bought one of these places that are one of these buildings that you put your lawnmower in. And we put an air conditioner in it, a telephone, and a small desk, and we hired my sister as a bookkeeper. And my brother and I started out. I was selling the company, he was working in the company. We had his son as an employee, and we were moving forward, trying to get everything done to get to a place where we could be viable and support our families. I invested my whole 401k. Guess how much it was? 30 grand. Wasn't much money to do this. It was tough. We went to the banks. We wrote this huge business plan, and we had 3,000 potential customers, and we thought that the bank would just jump all over that and loan us all the money we needed to do the business that we were going to do. But that wasn't it. They call that intangible assets. Most people do not like intangible assets, as the money or the assets that they hold with their money. So nobody would loan us any money, but we kept going and we kept moving forward. And every time we got a little job, we'd take that money, we'd set it aside, or we'd buy a van, or we'd buy a tool, or we'd hire somebody to help us do this stuff. So for 20 years, I managed what they call Turner Brothers Heating and Air Conditioning. About 2 years ago, we decided that we were going to retire. Go figure that one. But the thing about it is, we brought in a guy to run this business, and then he decided he wanted to purchase this business and not just run it. He wanted to be the guy in charge. So as of January 1 this year, Bill and I no longer own Turner Brothers Heating and Air Conditioning. Even that's been tough. All right, let me just tell you one story. I still remember this because it's important. It's vital that you understand that transparency is actually one of the things that I'm also running on. However, being transparent means that basically you constantly communicate with people around you. You have to talk. One of the things about the county commissioners that I've noticed over the time is there's not a lot of dialogue back and forth. Everything is out and everything is there, and there's no longer a conversation going back and forth. I'm running basically to help in that area. That didn't seem like 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Alex Blunt. I'm up for re-election. I'm the incumbent on the Kingsland City Council for post number 4. The beauty of being an incumbent is throughout the questions tonight, I'll get to talk about things that have happened versus things that I hope would happen or we plan to happen. Having 17 years worth of dialogue and worth of experience, I hope we're able to really dive deep into the topics, really peel back all the layers of the onion, so to speak, on the questions that have been submitted, and really help to illustrate the fiscal position that Kingsland was in some 20 years ago versus where we are today, and look forward to have that dialogue with all of you.
Hello, my name is Angela Harris. I am from Kingsland, Georgia, born and raised, attended the school here in the Camden County school system. I am running for the office of City Council, Post 4 of Kingsland. My reason for running is because as being a native of Kingsland, I look around and I look at how Kingsland has developed and Kingsland has grown. But then I also look around in Kingsland and I see where Kingsland still needs developing and Kingsland still needs to grow. And I feel that as a person who lives in the area and I know the people of the area, I can bring that to the table and say, hey, look, not only do we need to develop at side A, but let's develop B, C, D, E, and F. And those are the things that I consider. That's what I think about. I think about the people who have already been there for many, many years. I think about those who've gone on before me and those are coming behind me. So let's not just grow one part of Kingsland, let's grow all of Kingsland. We say Kingsland is a city of royalty, a royal treatment. So let's have royal citizens and let's treat each one of those citizens as royalty. Thank you.
Thank you all. We will start with the questions, and the first question. Okay, all right, it's back. First question will go to the county commissioner applicants, and Mr. Turner will have the opportunity to answer first. Okay. So I will read each question, and then the applicants will have an opportunity to answer. So, as an elected official, how will you champion and perpetuate Camden County government transparency and accountability?
You got it? Okay, if you know anything about me at all, you know that transparency is an issue. However, it's always an issue. In every election, this is almost a buzzword. Be transparent, be transparent, be transparent. Folks, that's all I've ever done. when the paper mill was running and I was in upper management there, we had a meeting one time. And in this meeting, the owner of the company decided that he was going to let the upper management know that he's going to lay off 25% of the workforce, the maintenance guys. But he didn't tell me it was a secret. So when I left that room, I ran straight into the union rep, and he said, well, what was that all about? And I said, you need to tell 25% of you guys they're going to lay them off, and they need to go find some jobs. Next day, I went back into that meeting where the owner basically said, I don't understand. How did they find out about that quick? And to which I raised my hand and said, you didn't tell me it was a secret. So from then on, if I went in those meetings, when they would say something, they would look at me and say, this is a secret. Didn't fire me or anything. I think that transparency is the key to government. You know, the Sunshine Law basically says that we have to let everyone know what's going on. Now, the thing that frustrates me in these meetings is that it's a one-way conversation usually. I don't fault anybody for that, but that's the way it's set up. It's, you know, the whole thing is they basically, the commissioners say what they want to say, and then the folks, like, you know, the other guys, they come up and they tell how stupid they are. Usually is what it looks like to me. But to get the transparency literally means that we got to have some town hall meetings. We got to put our stuff on the internet. We got to share with other people. I don't like Facebook personally because it's just a bully pulpit to me. It's some guy that just sitting out there wants to blast everybody. I don't like that. But I do like the idea of someone looking me in the eye and asking me a question. I'm sure some of you have read some of the stuff's been put in the paper about me. Well, let me tell you, ask me those questions. I'll answer them. And some of it, I don't like it. Nobody likes for somebody to blast them anywhere. But if we are to work together as a community, if we are to do things together as a community, we have to talk. We've got to have these conversations. Okay. Right after the last election, I went out to Harris Bluff, and me and Brother Ben here rode around for, 3 hours? And he showed me everything that was wrong out of Harris Bluff. And I agree with him on a lot of it. But we discussed it, we talked about it, and then we started kind of trying to move forward to solve these problems. Folks, if we'll talk, if we'll communicate, we will solve some problems. So to perpetuate it, the transparency and accountability, got to communicate. Got to. It's got to be our number one priority with the commissioners.
Did you turn it off?
No. I'm nicer guy than you are.
At least I told you to turn it off. The whole thing for me is about accountability for each one of those 5 gentlemen that sit up on the dais. Communications, I have walked up to that podium, I can't tell you how many times, and I finally realized they're not going to respond back to me, so I just kind of lay it out there any way I want to, and knowing that they're not going to respond, I've even asked them to meet with me after the meeting, and that hasn't worked either. If I am sitting on that dais and you walk to that podium, you're going to get a response from me. Now, I realize that we have a chairman, but that chairman needs to learn the process as well. We will have an open dialogue. We won't have a free-for-all by any stretch because that's not the way it works, but we will have back and forth communications. Accountability, have you seen any report card for your commissioner anywhere? Do you have any idea how your commissioner in your area is actually performing for you? I saw them. I saw the results of their actions on the 6th of October in Augusta, Georgia. That's part of the report card that I'm dissatisfied with and hurt that our commissioners would actually sue us as citizens. Accountability and transparency, that will be my watchword. Always has been. Martin and I we rode around, and I told him I'm going to hit every pothole in these streets out here that I can hit. And when we got finished, I said, Martin, did I miss any? He said, I don't think so. We have some serious issues, and the only people that we can hold accountable are those 5 people. Those are the people that we put in that seat to be accountable to us, and they certainly have not been. Thank you.
Now we will have the first question for the City of Kingsland candidates, and Ms. Harris, you will be the first respondent. Of the following challenges for a Kingsland City Council member, what is your top priority and why? Increasing economic development, preserving the local culture, or improving local government operations?
Well, in looking at the question, I would want us to increase our development, but at the same time, you also have to look at your local culture and your government operations. And I would say if we improve our government operations, that would lead us back to the beginning part of this question, because in order for us to increase our economic development, our local government would have to sit down, we would have to come together, and we'd have to come on agreement on the area that we want to work on, the areas that we want to improve. And we would have to look at all of our areas and let's say, okay, we're going to work on area 1, area 2, area 3, area 4. Let's not just say we're going to work on one area and then leave all the other areas undeveloped or unimproved. We have to look at developing all of our city, because our city is not just one place, it is an entire place, it's a whole place, and we're going to have to work on it as a whole, not just as one single entity.
I think the first thing we have to do is when we're looking at these questions is what is our core role? What is our responsibility being on the city council? It certainly isn't my role or responsibility to tell the developer where he should develop. What I should be doing is making sure the city is as business friendly as it can be, is that our government operations are as efficient as they can be. And what we have found over and over, it's no mystery. All of you drive down Highway 40, you've seen the way Kingsland has grown because we have that reputation, because we have the ability for water sewer infrastructure. We have water sewer rates that have increased, haven't had an increase since August of 10. Our solid waste rates have increased $1 to $13.25 since November of 06. We've reduced, this year will be the 4th consecutive year that we've reduced, at least to the rollback rate, 3 of the last 4 years exceeding the millage rollback rate. That's what you do to encourage development, is you show people that want to relocate or want to expand their business that there is an area that is business friendly, where you're keeping all the rates that you can as low as possible and allowing them to afford to open and afford to expand.
We'll now have the second question for the Camden County Commissioners. Mr. Goff, you will be the first respondent. Here's your question. Mr. Turner. Does the Camden County Joint Development Authority have adequate autonomy and funding to develop, promote, and expand business, create jobs, and make long-range plans for growth within the county? Please explain.
Thank you. Simple. No, they do not. They haven't had. The budget was pulled back some years ago. I saw the current budget that's posted, and this may be rumor. I've heard that budget has been reduced even since then. So no, I think and this may not make a whole lot of sense, but I think that we have done a great injustice towards the JDA because we haven't funded them, we haven't supported them. When I say we, I'm talking about the county commissioners in particular. They took the budget back regarding the spaceport and never put it back, never gave it back, and now we don't have adequate funding. Even today, in my opinion, we don't have adequate funding for them to go out and seek the large industrial type applications that we could put out up in the north area near the interstate, but also we do not have the infrastructure up there to support the industry that might go up there either. Exit 22 was put in several $1 million project simply to do that, to develop the north area. Hasn't happened. We didn't give them the money. I think with progressive, forward-looking commissioners and an adequate support staff and an adequate presentation from the JDA that we can move this county forward in the way that needs to be moved. I am not a proponent of tax increases. I am a proponent of tax reduction, and that's exactly the first place that I would start looking is how can we reduce the property taxes that we're currently charging citizens. How do you do that? You know, the Camden County government is a service organization. They don't sell anything and shouldn't be buying properties. They should be expending our tax dollars on services, and we're not necessarily doing that in every case. I've yet to ever see an organization that did not have room for 10, 15 to 20% improvement in productivity and in their management of money. Thank you.
The Joint Development Authority, to me, is one of the most vital organizations, committees, task force, whatever you want to call it. I don't like the idea of committees. I think committees just bog stuff down. I do like task force. Let me read you something I got today because I just wanted to look at what their last meeting was. The projects of the Joint Development Authority, the Cumberland Inlet, fixing up the mill property, the plug power, the hydrogen production facility, PEMB, metal manufacturing facility, SG block, modular construction manufacturing facility. Y&C Trading is a huge place they're going to build, or they're going to actually make egg rolls and distribute them all over the country. The St. Mary's Commerce Park, the new industrial park at the former St. Mary's Airport, Exit 7 Distribution Logistics Park. And let me show something to you. Has anybody seen this yet? This is something that the Joint Development Authority is working on that I'm excited about. Number one, they actually have someone that wants to come in here and build a 1 million square foot warehouse as a spec house. I mean, I was in the industry. I know what a spec house is. You just pour money into it and don't get any back until you sell it. 1 million square foot, 368,900 square foot, and 741,000 square foot. They want to come in and build this at Exit 7. What a great opportunity, because to me, that really excites me, because since the mill closed down and we lost approximately 3,000 jobs from the bag plant, from Bayer, from Union Carbide, and the paper mill. We've lost all of this when 52% of the people that live here go outside of here to go to work because they can't work here because we don't have the jobs for them. Unless they go on base, they have to work in some restaurant or something like that. This right here is what the JDA is supposed to be doing. And to me, it doesn't look like they're doing nothing. It actually looks like, to me, they are moving us forward. I am a fan of the Joint Development Authority, big time. I tried to get on their board and couldn't quite do it at that time. But it is important that we understand that we let them be autonomous. we let them be the group that leads us forward with our county. It's extremely important that we allow them to be the driving force in our county. I would love to see, as a county commissioner, I would love to see the support that we can give them to make them the people and the group that actually helps this county. Let me share something else too. I don't just believe in the joint development. I believe in the Camden County Chamber of Commerce, local colleges and technical schools, and citizens boards and authorities around here to help us with our communication. I stop.
Second question, Mr. Blunt, you will go first. Ms. Harris. Are the City of Kingsland's plans and actions sufficient to accommodate the profusion of housing units that are planned and expected during the next few years? What more should be done?
The quick answer is yes, but that's because it's a long-term plan that's being carried out. So that's only as good as what you continue to do with that plan. We are just in the early permitting processes for another clean water plant. That's going to have to be east of 95 because that's where we're experiencing so much growth. The idea that you would simply change where those funds have been calculated and planned and directed to go because you want growth to take place somewhere else, again, is counterintuitive to what developers want. Developers want to be where people are. They calculate head counts. They put their circle on the map as the crow flies. They're looking at traffic counts, etc. So the answer is yes, but that can very easily go away if the goal is simply just to redistribute funds from where they need to be based on what developers are telling us where they want to come in, where they want to locate businesses, where they want to grow our local economy, versus any individual or the council as a whole trying to tell developers where development needs to take place.
I can't sufficiently answer this question because I don't have all the statistics on the question, but just from being able to observe and look around in Kingsland, my question would be, when I look at housing and I look at some of the plans for housing, my concern is cost. And when you look at the cost of a lot of the housing in our area, and you look at the people who need this housing, the cost is above what they're able to pay. So if the local people can't afford the new housing that the developers want to bring in, is it really helping Kingsland? Is it really helping the people in the area? Because if they can't afford the housing, then there's no development there. I think we also should consider not just bringing in new people and bringing in new developers and new developments, but we should work on what we have that's already existing. Why take and develop a new area or bring in somebody to develop an area when you have areas in Kingsland that can be redone, it can be rebuilt, and it can be made for the local people of the area? You know, not just bringing in new stuff, but let's build and let's correct the problems that we have in Kingsland. And if we do that, then we can expand and we can have an expected economic growth and an economic future.
Thank you. Mr. Turner, you have the next question first. For the past 6 years, the county commissioners have not resolved a challenge to a hardship variance request regarding private property within the bounds of Cumberland Island National Seashore. What is your opinion on this subject?
I've got a good friend that I've known for years, and he brought this up to me just recently. Actually, his grandmother was Lucy Ferguson, and I used to go over to Cumberland with him all the time, and it was the only way I could ride four-wheeler on Cumberland was to go over to walk. But we're still close. We're still good friends. I don't have an answer for this. I wish I did, but I'm not going to blow smoke and act like I know something when I don't. However, I do know this. Today, and you may think I'm trying to divert, but I'm not. Today, I got a phone call from a friend of mine that lives across from the high school. And the county was going to go in there and start digging up the road or digging up the ditches in there to try to, get the water running properly. And he was not enthused with that. As a matter of fact, there were about 11 people there that were not enthused with doing that project. And there's a lot of people that live out there. So what I did was I called the county. I got the girl that runs the road department, and then I got a friend of mine who's actually an engineer. And we went out there and met with these 11 people. This was early this morning. That's why I'm a little tired now, because normally I go home and take a nap before I do these things, but I couldn't today because I was in the middle of this. I think it's extremely important. I apologize that I don't know what that hardship variance request is. And maybe Ben will, he can explain it to us and would love to hear it. However, the thing about it is, it does take that communication that we were talking about. You gotta talk to people. If you don't talk to people, you don't know what their needs are, and you run ramshot over them. A while ago, they were talking about lawsuits, folks. I'm a minister of the gospel, and I'm glad I am. I will never apologize for that. I don't believe in lawsuits, period. I've hurt myself on the job, and I've had opportunities that I could actually file a lawsuit and probably get lots of money out of those things. I don't do that stuff. That's not who I am. It's not that we are against one another. We have to come together to make things happen. After tonight, I will understand this question, and I'll put it on my not on my Facebook, because I don't hardly do that, but on my website, which is electmartinturner.com, www.electmartinturner.com. You go on there, and I'll find out what this is, and Kanan, I'll get with you, we'll make a video, and I'll explain where I'm at on that at that time. Sorry about that.
Mr. Turner, I am certainly glad that you're going to do that. I remember this same question from 2018. This is a recycled question. We had the same question then. Personally, I think this should have been resolved in 2018, as far as I personally am, and I would have to sit with Mr. Goodman and a couple, 3 other commissioners to come to a resolution that we send it back to the planning and zoning folks, which is actually a subset of the county commissioners. I absolutely do not believe that this is Ben Goff's personal. I should believe that this should not be granted as a hardship variance. There should not be any additional construction of these properties. Now, that's not to say it's not going to happen. That's just Ben Goff's thought on it. Interestingly enough, when we get the hard questions brought to the county commissioners, it has a tendency to get kicked back and forth between the planning and zoning and the commissioners because, well, I don't know what the because is, but it seems to have happened recently with a request for a variance for an airstrip. I don't know what happened to that, but I know there was a lot of publicity over it. There's a lot of publicity over this. Nobody wants to make a decision. And I really and truly understand that, because Martin's going to know tonight what this is all about, and he'll make the hard decision if it comes to that. Thanks for letting me share that.
Okay, let's see. Ms. Harris, you get the next question first. There you go. Mr. Blunt, I'm over you. Sorry, switch shoulders on you. Okay. Is the city of Kingsland, let me start over. Is the city of Kingsland adequately addressing and working the storm water management challenge? What more should be done? Ms. Harris?
Well, I can't really adequately answer that question in that manner. Just looking at the drainage in Kingsland and around Kingsland, there's a lot that still needs to be done. I can say on Highway 40, I can see where work is being done, and work has been done. I know in some areas of Kingsland, the drainage is good, but then when you get on the back end of Kingsland, like your east, your west, your west and your north and your south end, the drainage is horrible. So yes, there needs to be more work done to bring those areas out so that they can have adequate drainage, not just on the east side, but all of Kingsland, because we need water management to control the drainage in all areas. And there are some of our older areas where every time it rains, it floods. So that's not being managed. That hasn't been managed. And that's something that should be looked at, especially, like I say, on our north and our south side. It really needs to be looked at and worked out.
There are adequate plans that are being carried out, but that again is a continuation. We're all familiar with what our natural landscape is. There is a ton of marsh wetland areas that surround different areas of Kingsland. Unfortunately, some developments that took place 25 and 30 years ago, places were built in what was a swamp. It's an engineering feat to not have, when you have 3 or 4 inches of rain in an afternoon, that there not be water crossing the street. However, those are, those developments that are issues, those are the ones we have. And so it's a continuation. You're continually working to make one step better, one step further. It seems like the east side of Kingsland is the target of some discussion, but the last meaningful flooding where water came into houses, in fact, did happen on the east side of Kingsland. So to act like we're good in one area and we're not somewhere else is absolutely, I think, misleading. All across the city, that is a task that has been in place, that is in place, and will continue to be in place for the near, intermediate, and distant future. There will always be drainage issues that we're having to work through. There was a proposed development that came before council about 2 months ago. It was not advantageous, and stormwater runoff was the single biggest issue why. So when those existing residents came to council, we understood their concern, we shared their concerns, and that development was not allowed to move forward. So there's always got to be dialogue. There's always got to be a continual continual cycle through public works, engineering, again, short, intermediate, and long-term planning to address those issues and deficiencies.
Mr. Goff, you get the first question, or get to respond first. So this is question 4 for the commissioner candidates. Regarding strategic planning, are there sufficient communications, coordination, and cooperation among county, city, PSA, and JDA leaders to successfully address and efficiently service the needs of residents and business owners? Please explain.
My goodness. I know we have spent $10 million on communication services in this county recently, over the last few years since I've been here. I don't think that's what they're actually addressing here. And do I think there is sufficient communication? Possibly between the cities and the counties and representatives and JDA, but certainly not with the citizens. I've been in Camden County since 2001. I have yet to see a town hall meeting held. I have yet seen an organization or anything else be heard and addressed from the county regarding the services and the needs of the residents, and can't say for the business owners. We definitely need more citizen interaction with our county administration. As I said earlier, I have gone to that podium and I actually learned that if I take whatever I'm going to say, it becomes part of the archives. You can go back and read the archives yourself. They're in the minutes over these same issues. There's some there's some initials on here that just frustrate the heck out of me. And my friend over here and I don't agree on it, but no, there's not communication. I've been told many times, why don't you come to the meetings? Well, number one, the Public Service Authority is a contractor to the county. When I go to address PSA or recreation or parks or roadside mowing, I go to speak to my commissioner because, well, I didn't elect him, but somebody did. We in the unincorporated county did not elect anybody on that Public Service Authority board at this point in time. And quite frankly, that is a real sore subject with me and has been since 2017. And if I had known about it in 2004, it would have been there as well. I won't beat that drum any harder than I already have, but there definitely needs to be some communication between the county commissioners and their contractors. And if I get on this board, there will be conversation come January, the second meeting. Thank you.
Alex put me on a board in Kingsland. It's called the Planning and Zoning Board for the City of Kingsland. A couple of weeks ago, we had a meeting, or it might have even been last month or whatever it was, and you sit there and it's kind of like this, and you're looking out on folks just like you are. And I was there, and I knew what the agenda was, and the agenda had on it building a lodge or a motel at Laurel Island Links so that they could save the golf course and then develop, the community. These folks were angry. They were mad. I still remember sitting up there thinking, why are they mad at me? I hadn't said a word yet, I haven't done anything. All I did was read this stuff. And then they postponed the meeting. Guess what else happened? They were even more angry then because they didn't get to talk either, You can't do the back and forth dialogue like that. It's got to happen outside of those meetings. If you're going to talk to the people that are like you guys that are here tonight, I got to talk to you before or after. None of you have said one word since we started this meeting. You're listening. Well, that's what was going on there. But it did kind of freak me out a little bit. So I went to the city manager and I said, if we don't start talking to the people that are involved in this, then here's what we're going to have. And I don't use this word. I can't say it in here, but we're going to have a bunch of angry people and they're not going to understand. So you know what he did? He was a smart man. He decided we were going to have a town hall meeting at Laurel Island Links, and they got the word out, and 100 people showed up. And Bill Gross got in there and started telling them what they were trying to do. And all these folks that were angry found out that the value on their property is going to probably go down by half because they're going to shut this golf course down because it's not making money. And when they found that out, then the whole attitude changed, and they started talking about, well, how can we do it? What is this going to look like? Are we going to bring in riffraff from off the interstate, or what are we going to do? And those were the questions they were asking. And guess what? They got answered. Because the next meeting I went to, there were still the same people in the room, but instead of being against it, they were for it. I believe wholeheartedly in educating folks. I like to know what's going on in my community. I make it a point. Did you know last night they had a meeting in Woodbine at the old school? And while I was here at this, I was on the phone with those people there that were angry there because they didn't like the way that meeting was going to go. They were scared to death. Our community is, but we've got to work together. That's all I can say about that. If we don't start working together, then we're going to be like years ago when Buddy Barnes and Mike Blunt, not relation to him, used to go out back behind the place and get in a fist fight. That's not what we need, folks. We need to love our brothers and our sisters. There you go. There's your sermon for tonight. John 3:16, okay?
Okay, Mr. Blunt, you get to respond to the next question first. Oops, I get it to you. As an elected official, how will you champion and perpetuate local government transparency and accountability?
That's a great question. Obviously, it gets down to what the core responsibilities are for any elected body. In this case, on the Kingsland City Council, the first thing you do is you hold each other accountable. And you do that by making sure that no one in the group gets the rest of the group in any type of issue. The second thing we do, and probably the most important, is that we hold staff accountable. Too many times, folks are elected and they turn into nodding and going along, and the staff is directing the elected folks on how it works. That's absolutely not the case. I answer to every taxpayer and every voter in the city of Kingsland, and staff answers to the city manager, and the city manager answers to me. So it is us giving direction from our constituency, which is all of Kingsland for us. Obviously, we don't have the zones like you have in St. Mary's or like we have in the county. So we have the ability to articulate what our expectations are to staff, see that they carry those out, and if there's any issue, then it's our job to stop that and correct it immediately. Our community has suffered greatly. We don't have to go back any further than our issues with the Public Service Authority whenever we have lacked accountability. And that's exactly what that was. We had folks on a board that weren't seeing the responsibilities of being on that board all the way through, and the entire community suffered because of it. So it's not, while it is something that seems like another one of those topics that comes up around election, we probably as a community haven't taken it serious enough, and we don't have to look back any further than our issues with the PSA to see exactly how important that is.
As an elected official, and how will you champion and perpetuate local government transparency and accountability? Number one, my answer is always let your yay be yay and your nay be nay. If you're going to answer a question, answer it straightforwardly, answer it honestly, and if you don't know the answer, do the research and find the answer. Always make sure that you are representing your constituents and communicate with those in the community, all the people that you represent. Make sure you communicate, you have an open door, an open line of communication. Set up even little small meetings to meet with different people in different areas, in different locations, to find out what their needs are, what it is that they want. And then have these things, bring them back to your board, bring them back to your council, and even in your council meetings. Once again, if you have a yes answer, let it be yes. If you have a no answer, let it be no. If you have a neutral answer, then hey, look, I just don't know. But you have to stand on where you are. You can't say, well, I'm going to go with this person or go with that person. I'm going with the crowd. You have to stand, be honest, be open.
Thank you. Mr. Turner, you get the next question first. Oops, sorry. Elected officials must make difficult decisions that affect service delivery for not only required services, but also services that are expected by a community, such as parks and recreation, libraries, and facilities for senior citizens. What are your priorities regarding these subjects and methods to deal with associated financial demands?
I wish I could stand. I love to stand. Oh, she told me not to. I got to obey. There's a lady in St. Mary's that lost everything she had during this tornado that was down here. I don't know if you remember it. It was down, was that North Street? What's the name of it? It was North Street, wasn't it? It put a tree on top of her little house. She's 74 years old. She has 3 children, grandchildren that she's trying to raise and do it on $900 a month Social Security. And when that happened, we got all the churches together and we loaded up trailers and got our chainsaws and we came to St. Mary's and we started cutting off trees and trying to clean up the area. I came in contact with this lady and I did everything that I could to help her. I got Terry Landreth involved. I got the Agape Church involved, Southeastern Church involved. I got Habitat for Humanity, and I had all of these people ready to go and build this lady a house. Matter of fact, Bill Gross actually drew up the prints, and it was going to cost $90,000, but if Habitat did it, it was only going to cost $60,000. And I went because we had relief money. I went to the city of St. Mary's. I talked to some of the politicians. I asked them to help this lady out. I went to the county. I talked to the county people. I asked them to help this lady out. I knew that the county got $10 million. The city of St. Mary's got $5 million, and the city of Kingsland got $5 million. And I knew out of all of that money, surely we could fork out $60,000 or $70,000 to help this lady out. It did not happen. I am a proponent of servant leadership. Don't say you're going to do something, do it. Don't just say that you're going to be transparent, be transparent. Don't say that you're going to work on building up this community and trying to get these jobs back that these people need in this community. Go out and find those things. That's what's important to me. If you want these services delivered, then go do it. But don't wait on everybody else to do it. You do it. That's why I ran for office. I want to serve in our community. It's extremely vital, and it's important that all of us continue to do that. Because if we gather together as a group, we can do stuff for this community that's unreal. Then you'll have your parks and recreation. Then you'll have your libraries. Then you'll have facilities for senior citizens because you won't be expecting everybody else to do it. And I tell you something else. I don't expect the government to do it either. I expect us to do it. If we see somebody with a need, we did it. And by the way, there's your second sermon for tonight. And I could give you scripture to back that up, but she's not going to give me the time to do it. So here we go.
I yield 30 seconds to you, Martin. I wrote this question, by the way. Elected officials must make difficult decisions that affect service delivery and so on and so forth regarding parks and recreation. I agree with the statement that the county received $10.3 million of ARPA funds, American Recovery Plan Act funds. And I cannot find anything except the $40,000 that was allocated for coastal regional transportation free rides. That's the only thing that I know of that are directly related to the citizens of this county and where it should have gone. There's an organization, a nonprofit organization that went to the county. I know for a fact they went to the county in addition to what Martin tried to get done to try to get those 5 commissioners to listen to the needs of the people. That didn't happen. I can assure you that if I'm sitting on that board, they're going to be heard and it's going to be responded to. We pay from the unincorporated tax funds almost $600,000 for parks and recreation for 11 recognized parks in the unincorporated county area. Of those, there are 4 buildings, pavilions, if you will, only 4. Almost $600,000 to the PSA. I took a picture on Saturday of a park that has not had any mulch put in the playground equipment since 2004 when the park was built. There are 2 parks on the upper end of the county that only received mulch in the playground equipment from years ago after I took 13 pictures up to and presented it to Gary Blunt, the chairman of the commission at the time. The other 2 commissioners that I asked to sit there and listen to me got up and walked out. Folks, I cannot dispute what Mr. Turner says about we need to work together, we need to provide for. But there needs to be accountability at the commissioner level and the administration level. We've had a county administrator. I didn't give that to Martin. I didn't give him 30 seconds. We have a county administrator that spent the last 5-6 years doing something other than what should have happened. Network, anybody remember that movie Network? I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
So, Ms. Harris, the next question you get to respond to first. It might look familiar. Elected officials must make difficult decisions that affect service delivery for not only required services, but also services that are expected by a community, such as parks and recreation, libraries, and facilities for senior citizens. What are your priorities regarding these subjects and methods to deal with resulting financial demands?
I say, it's kind of a long question there. Elected officials must make difficult decisions, and we all know that is true. Yes, we have to make difficult decisions, and those decisions affect many different entities, many different people, many different functions. And I think regarding those subjects, we have to deal with them as they come up. We have to deal with them on a one-to-one basis. There it is. We can't just lump everybody in one basket and say, okay, we're going to deal with everyone the same. We have to deal with them one by one and accordingly. We got to look at the needs. We got to look at what's going on, and then we have to deal with them from where they are and from where we are at that particular time. We may not have ability to completely service everybody the same thing, the same amount at the same time, but yet we can look and we can continue to work until we get our jobs done.
I think priorities oftentimes present themselves. We can all work very hard to have the best intermediate and long-term plans we have, but obviously sometimes things that are unforeseen come to pass. But when we're able to plan and work together, we have things, some 10 or 12 years ago, Kingsland had its own Office of Economic Development. We saw that as a glaring deficiency. We had one person who was essentially managing himself, and we weren't really getting anything worthwhile accomplished. We went and talked with the JDA, and his skill set was something that the JDA was looking to bring on board in the next 2 to 3 years. So what we were able to do was merge those services at a savings to the Kingsland taxpayer and elevate the service that the Joint Development Authority was able to provide. What we had was 2 offices that were 3/4 of a mile away from each other that were doing the exact same thing. So sometimes it's just being willing to be more efficient. It's being willing to say, I don't have to have, as a Kingsland City Council member, my own Office of Economic Development. What we all need is there to be an efficient Office of Economic Development serving our entire county. So I think as you rank and prioritize those, you look at the resources you have on hand, the resources that are best available, and you rank and prioritize from there. Parks and recreation, it's an easy target. Again, we've mentioned several times the deficiencies that our community suffered with mismanagement at the Public Service Authority. I don't believe that mechanism is completely broken, as much as it was we had folks that had probably remained in the same position too long, got very comfortable, and hopefully whoever is in office will charge our representatives on that commission and any other to be as open and transparent and as forthcoming as every taxpayer deserves.
Mr. Goff, you get to respond first. Mr. Turner. The adoption of the annual budget may be construed as a component of establishing policy since it allocates funding for services and development. Are there existing budget line items that should have less or more funding? Please explain.
I didn't write this question. What I have noticed is that the annual budget seems to match what the annual income is instead of the other way around. I'm all about seeing where we have line items in the budget that need to be adjusted, that need to be looked at. And I'm going to be upfront and frank. When I look at the budget in alphabetical order, the first thing there is the administration. And yes, I think that needs to be looked at dramatically. Also, in the county in particular, I believe that we should be looking more at the line items for the Public Works Department than we are currently. We have, for the first time since I've been in Camden County, we have an employee there, the director of that organization, who is proficient, who is knowledgeable, who came to the county with experience. What I have seen over the course of the 2 years that she's been here, when she walks to that podium and requests dollars, she has all of her facts and figures and the reasons for those dollars right up front. Totally impressed with that. But I have seen her get turned down on budget items that should have been approved. When I first came to Camden County, there were actually 38 people on the payroll for the Public Works Department in the county. Right now, there are 23. And they only just achieved that 23. Their budget was cut years ago, and they've never really gotten back to the point that they actually need to be funded at. I'm sure there are other areas. I'm more concerned with Public Works at this point, simply because I live in the Harriet's Bluff area, and we have been on the strategic plan for drainage improvements since 2001. And there hasn't been anything done on that plan or any work done since 2004. And that's when we had a crew of, go ahead, hold it up. We had a crew from the Sheriff's Department come out and clean out one of the major ditches in the county. So if there's anything that I would rather see funded more, let's take some from the A area, the administration area, and put it down into the Public Works area. Thank you.
Let me say this to clarify something I said a while ago. I said I basically got in touch with everybody. I called actually two city politicians in the St. Mary's area. I forgot what you call them. What do you call them? Council members. That's right. I called two council members to try to help this lady out. One of them did call me back, said they couldn't do it. The other one just basically didn't call me back. And I called, a couple of guys at the county too. But the city of Kingsland, which is where I am, they distributed that money. I thought that was really awesome because that's really what we should be doing. They set up an office upstairs from where my office is, and they were ready to distribute that money to people that really needed it. And those are the things that are important to me. So I didn't want to throw Kingsland under the bus, but City of St. Mary's and the county, neither one wanted to help this lady out. And I struggle with that. The adoption of the annual budget. One of the things that we've got to do, in my opinion, is we have to have some business. We've got to have industry in Camden County. I've been saying that the whole time. I don't back off of that. Someone claimed that I was the go along to get along guy. That's really not true. I do love everybody. I'm supposed to. I have to. Doesn't mean I got to like everybody, but I love everybody. But if I believe in something and I believe in it hard, I don't give it all on those situations. And this is one thing that I know this county has to grow back up. I worked at that paper mill. I saw 1,200 people walk away with no job, and they just walked out. I saw Gilman Paper Company take the bag plant and take it somewhere else because they had benefits somewhere else. I saw Union Carbide shut down. I saw Bear Crop shut down. I saw these things. I was here when Thicol blew up. So I've been here for a long time. And I also remember when I-95 went through Camden County, how that everybody freaked out because, that we were putting in another road and we were going to harm 17. But guess what? We did harm 17. We actually basically shut it down. I can still remember as a boy going to see my girlfriend in St. Mary's. I had to hitchhike down 17, then catch a pulpwood truck into St. Mary's to do it. So to see my girlfriend. So I understand that. But our budget needs to focus on the JDA. They need their budget done. And also the sheriff's office. Not long ago, I went into the sheriff's office and they gave me a tour. And in that tour, they showed me a room that's right now a closet. It's just a closet in there now because they had 50 beds and they need those beds to put people. For instance, say I embezzle and they put me in jail. I don't want them to put me in there with the guy that committed a sex crime or murdered somebody. I want to go in that 50 room thing, So we need a place where we can separate them, but they don't have the staffing issues. I think that's vital, and I think that's important that we do those things. So you have to look at the budget, period. I know. I'm gone. I rambled a little bit.
Okay, Mr. Blunt, you get the next question first. Ms. Harris. With growth and greater demand for government-provided services comes greater cost. How can Kingsland offset these costs and lessen the burden on local taxpayers?
Yeah, this is great. It's to continue the practices that we are implementing right now. Kingsland is in excellent fiscal shape right now. We're in great financial position. If you go back to 2013, our fund balance, which for government talk, that's the equivalent of our household savings account, is cash you have on hand, but cash you're not wanting to use, was $401,000. To put that in perspective, that equates to 14 days of operating funds for the city of Kingsland. We're going to close, or we just closed this current budget, a little over $8.5 million in our fund balance. That equates to 240 days. That's a great position for a city our size to be in. We want to show those that want to develop, that want to bring business in, which everybody wants, because what do we want to do? All across this community, all across this county, we're teetered the wrong way. We have way too much tax burden on residences, on individuals, and we don't have near enough that's what we would call medium to large economic development, more industrial type, heavy commercial. Funding the JDA appropriately is certainly one thing that can help get us there, but us maintaining real fiscal discipline is the way, to answer the last part of that question, that we lessen the burden on our local taxpayers. I touched on earlier how strong our water sewer rates are at $25.30 a month. There's a lot of neighboring jurisdictions that would appreciate a minimum water bill that could be that amount, that our solid waste rates are $13.25 a month. There's a lot of jurisdictions in close proximity to us that would really appreciate that. As we continue to carefully manage all of our city resources, all of our city assets, operating on a cash basis like we are, This year we'll bring into service a new $870,000 ladder truck. We paid cash for that. Nearly every city our size would finance that from anywhere from 10 to 12 to 15 years. So instead of just having that truck that you own free and clear because you're operating on a conservative cash basis, you're now servicing debt on that piece of equipment for 10 or 12 years. So we haven't gotten there overnight. It's been a lot of hard work to get there by a lot of people, but because we are able to offer these services at a really, really good value for our taxpayers.
I would have to agree with what Mr. Blunt was saying, and I would just add that if Kingsland would continue to watch the bottom line, keep watching their budget, and places where we can cut back, and also, as they were saying earlier, that we can bring in good industry business. Good industry business will bring in good revenue, and if we can do those things, then that will help to ease our burden on our taxpayers.
So at this point, we are going to end the questioning because we promised you as a question and answer period at the end, another meet and greet, if you will. But at this point, we will ask the candidates in reverse order than we started to give us their closing statement. And we will start with Mr. Turner. 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Oh, okay.
Now you stand up, right?
Go right ahead.
Okay. I got to stand up. There's one thing that didn't come out tonight, and it's a term that's important to me, and basically it's a term that when we think about keep it in Camden. You ever heard of that term? It's called the multiplier effect, and what the multiplier effect means is for every dollar spent in this county, it generates $6. Now, I'm not a statistician. I am definitely not going to be able to explain it to the T. But this came from Harvard University, their business school. And this guy came up with the idea that every employee that you've got buys a house, pays taxes on the house, buys groceries, pays taxes on the grocery, buys his car local, pays taxes on his car, gets his car worked on at Coastal Car Care or somewhere around there. But then they pay taxes on the work that's done, and buys an air conditioner from Turner Brothers Heating and Air Conditioning, pays taxes on whatever happens there. And it generates income for the local economy. I've been pushing this ever since I can remember, since they redid the Woodbine Elementary School, because they were going to give our work to somebody in Savannah. I went before the city council in Kingsland one time. I went before the county commissioners one time, and I shared this with them, because what's happening is when we do it outside the county, even our local work, when we do it outside the county, guess what we do? We generate income for the other place instead of keeping it at home. You want your taxes to decrease? Start doing your own stuff here. One thing that Donald Trump did that I thought was extremely vital was he put tariffs on China. And when he did, China really went after him. And I get it. You know why they went after him? Because he hurt their pocketbook, but he helped our pocketbook. That's a big difference. As a county commissioner, that will be a number one priority for me. And that we work with our small businesses, that we get the industry here, and that we help our county be sustainable, and that our taxes do drop. They need to drop. They're kind of high. I just got a raise on my tax on my property, you know, so I understand that. But if we get this multiplier effect involved, and I hope I've explained it to you in a way that you can understand it, and it becomes an active part of who we are, and we think in those terms, then you know what will happen? Our county will begin to thrive. I don't want to be Patterson, Georgia, or Mershon, Georgia, but if that base leaves, and I still remember when the base came here, how the mill people said we don't need that base. You know why they said we don't need it? Because if long as we've got the mill, we're fine. Well, guess what? We don't have the mill. We cannot afford to turn down any industry that comes here. If they're coming here and they want to help us, and they want to sustain us, and they're a private industry, then we need to open the doors wide open instead of closing them and allow us to move forward. Okay. Was that, what, 4 minutes?
He used up 2 minutes of my time. In closing, I plan to be a full-time commissioner. I plan to have an office in Woodbine. I plan to have what are those things? A Tahoe to drive back and forth to work from home. Not really. Well, county will buy me one. As a voting citizen of this county, my biggest complaints are the lack of accountability with our commissioners. I want to see measurement. We need one. I want to see measurements for those commissioners. I want to see a report card. I remember I used to do my own report card. I even signed my own a few times. So anyway, we need to hold our boards accountable, we as citizens, because believe it or not, they work for us. Communications, how do we communicate with the board right now? It's a one-way conversation. Mr. Turner did an excellent job of iterating that we need to communicate. I agree with that totally. We need to stop some of the communications with the attorneys that we have, the 5 lawsuits that we have going on right now that we're paying for as county expenses. If you're not aware of them, they're there. We need transparency. Someone called me down about executive sessions. Executive sessions are necessary, but the Georgia statutes really and truly define what can be used, when it can be used, and what happens afterwards. I can assure you that last year anyway, our county commissioners have not complied with those statutes. They have not. You can go back and look at the meetings, look at the archives, and see. Now, no one's challenged them. I haven't challenged them because I don't have enough money to challenge them in the court. We could take up a collection tonight and start that. I will work to see that a lot of the things that happen today right now with the commissioners will change. I will work hard to see that change. I will raise hell. And I know Martin's not in favor of that word, and that's fine. But I will work to see that change dramatically. I'll see those lawsuits begin to stop. We can't stop them immediately. I understand that. But it has to go. I have the experience to see that happen. Thank you.
Ms. Harris.
As a member of the Kingsland City Council, I would work to bring more unity to the city of Kingsland with the city council members and the people of Kingsland. One thing I would love to see us, I think Kingsland is growing and has grown, but I still would love to see Kingsland grow even more. And as we talked about earlier, we know we have a drainage issue, and that's over the entire city of Kingsland, not just certain parts of Kingsland. But even with our area of Kingsland, even in the beautifying of Kingsland, keeping our sidewalks clean, even having affordable homes for the citizens of Kingsland, that's something that I would love to see us have. Even our roads, working on our infrastructure in Kingsland, having all of our roads paved, our old roads, our rocky roads, our broken down roads, having those worked on, having those paved, all areas coming up and building up and bringing Kingsland up to par. And, even thinking about the fact that, yes, we do have a homeless population in Kingsland, that could be addressed, looking at the things that we may be able to do to help those who are homeless, help those who might be down right now. I may be homeless today, but that doesn't mean I have to be homeless tomorrow. Working on things in that area, even, where our community, our money for COVID, where we got the money for COVID, help those people who might have gotten distraught, who might have lost out, during that time. As a city council member, I would work to help to try to bring those things out and help to try to help those people out. And even encourage our people and show people how you can attend our meetings and attend the city council meetings, and you can bring thoughts forth and bring ideas forth, bring projects forth so that they can be thought about, they can be heard about, those things can be encouraged, they can be considered. Those are the things that we can do as citizens of Kingsland, and being as a board, being transparent, being as honest and upright and forthcoming as I can be. Those are the things that I would do as being a member of Kingsland City Council. Thank you.
I mentioned earlier this evening that the best thing about being an incumbent, if you're proud of the record you're a part of, is that you get to talk about that and you get to point out the plan to continue those exact same things. Kingsland's millage rate fiscal year 20 was 8.0. In 21 it was 7.4. In 22 it's 6.5. I'm proud of that. I'm proud to look in all of you in the face and say for 4 years in a row, we've exceeded what the rollback rate was for our millage rate. That's quite an accomplishment for a city our size. I'm proud to tell you that all three of the primary funds that we're responsible for governing on the city council, our general fund, our water sewer fund, and our solid waste fund, have zero debt. Zero debt. The only debt inside the city of Kingsland right now is the Welcome Center, and that's paid for by the bed tax. So there is zero debt service that anybody's property tax bill in Kingsland is going to. That's a phenomenal statement for a city our size. Every election is about the opportunity to keep what you have or to look at something different, and Kingsland has the opportunity to change. With that voting record, I don't know why you would.
So could we just give all of the candidates a round of applause as our MC comes forward? I will relinquish the mic to Ms. Williams.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bradford.